Hi everybody and welcome back to the Ljubljana Talks show at IMEX 2023 in Frankfurt. This is the grand finale of our talks and I have a special guest here, Pigalle Tavakkoli. She comes from London with a very interesting background. But let me start this conversation with a short question. How would you describe experience design in 3 words?
Well, that's an excellent question because there's a lot of confusion about what experience design is. And it's equally a challenge to capture an explanation in 3 words. So I'll do my best.
Okay.
So the first word I like to focus on is experience. So when normally we're designing events, products or services, we're very focused on designing those aspects. However, in experience design, we design not only the event, product and service, but we also design the interaction, the experience you have from those items, those elements. So we're actually interested in the whole journey that the customer or audience makes and the experience that they get from those products, events, services. So that leads me to my second word, which is internal. So normally with those products and services, they're all on the outside, they're on the external side of the audience. And what we're doing is by designing an experience, we're trying to reach the internal world of the audience. Because once we reach the internal world, then they will have internal changes within them. Hello.
Hi.
Lovely to meet you.
Jan, hi, nice
Hi,
to meet
Jan.
you.
Lovely to meet you.
Situation, so there we go. Welcome to the Ljubljana Talks. I'll just keep on going.
We just opened the first question, yeah, I will repeat this. How to describe experience design if you can use only 3 words. And it's a really interesting intro. So maybe, no, you will not repeat, just go on. Jan will jump into the conversation, okay.
With experience design, what we're interested in is not just designing those elements on the external world, but we're actually using them as the tools to reach the internal world of the audience. Because what we're trying to affect is 3 types of changes. So we can change the way the audience feels, the way they think, and the way they behave. So we're not just designing the external, we're actually designing to reach the internal. And then my third word would be transformation. So once we've designed an experience that creates these internal changes, the long-term impact is that people will be changed forever. Now that can be a small transformation, that can be a large transformation, but they essentially should be changed from the moment they've experienced those external elements long after that interaction has finished. So for me, that would be how I would describe experience design, which is a challenge in 3 words.
But it's beautiful. I love it, and it really says everything about what we discussed today for almost whole day. Even the last talk was about that, actually. It was a little bit more straightforward in a way that there was a colleague of us, who is doing these rock things, but it was exactly the same. How to change this internal behavior of participants.
It really is about, making a difference, making a different kind of an experience so that it's memorable, because only then it actually achieves the desired goal.
Well, actually, my talk tomorrow is about the art and science of designing emotions. And I unpack the way the brain processes emotions. And it takes place in the amygdala part of our brain, which sits right next to the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is where memories are formed. So there is this symbiotic relationship between memories and emotions. So once we can understand how they work, and I also go into the neuroscience of consciousness, which then gives us that extra layer to understanding emotions. So we can then move to designing emotions not just intuitively, but actually very intentionally. So when I design experiences, I completely plan which emotions, what type of emotional journey do I want to take the audience on. And then I've created methods and tools to be able to specifically design for that. But the reason I can do that is having understood the science behind it. And then the science behind it I understand because I worked 15 years with scientists. And I'm a specialist in bringing artists and scientists together. So as a producer, I first learned by observing my audiences and seeing these incredible emotions that they were expressing on their face. And then they were telling me that their lives were changed forever. And so I went on a journey to find out, well, how is it that I do what I do? And how can I translate that into something that others can use so they can achieve the same impact as well?
Well, one thing comes to my mind is nostalgia, you know, where is stored in the brains, a nostalgia feeling, you know. We try to create nostalgia quite often with events, you know. What is your opinion about it? Or this is totally wrong what I'm saying now?
Oh, there's no wrong and right in anything. I like it's all the shades of grey in between that makes life interesting, and that's where all the fascinating things happen. So nostalgia is an emotion, and it's absolutely linked to memory. So when you're designing for nostalgia, you really need to know your audience to know what aspects will be nostalgic for them. What kind of memories do they have? What is their background? And then you can design aspects within the experience or the product or the service that then acts as prompts and triggers for them to recall their memories. And then when we recall our memories, it activates the chemicals in our brain to send the signals to our body to feel the same emotions we had at that moment in time when that memory formed. So actually with emotions, it starts in the brain, but the chemicals go through our body, send messages to our muscles, and we have a whole physiological effect. So it can be that either the emotion creates a memory or a memory recalls the emotions. And because they live together in the brain, they have this really, really close relationship together.
Amazing. What should we stop doing at live events, in your opinion? What is wrong with our approach to live events?
So I like to be non-binary. I prefer to be about all the shades in between, and there's lots of things people are doing with live events that works perfectly for them, and there's space for all types of ways of approaches. And I guess it would be to do with the target audience. So for any event, it depends on their target audience and the kind of impact they want to bring about with them. So certain audiences may have a need to experience things that are more cutting edge or that provide more insights for them or activate their imagination or stimulate thought provocations, or they're looking for meaning or purpose. So those kind of values, that's where experience design will become valuable. Or it could be something where it's a sales event and they're looking to get audience retention and they're looking to get deeper engagement. And that's where experience design will come in and help them as well.
So we've been talking about meetings architecture for a long time in the industry. How do you see, I mean, you know, there's so many elements that one can actually bring into the mixture. You know, it can be the sound, it can be the smell, it can be the layout. Is there a combination, or is there a format that you think actually works really, really well, or a format that would surprise you how well it actually works?
So this is, yeah, absolutely. And actually, I love the word that you mentioned, tool. So all those external elements that you described are a whole range of tools in our wonderful toolkit as experienced designers, and we could use any or none of them. So what matters is our intention. What matters is to first work out what are the aims of the experience, what is the impact, internal changes, long-term transformation that we want to achieve. And once we have those, we have a strategy through which to ideate and formulate which platforms, which tools, which technology, because then we are informed which one is most powerful to achieve the aims and impact that we want. So with experience design, the design process starts the other way around. So rather than thinking about the ideas, I take people a few steps before that, and once we work out the aim, strategy and the audience impact we want, then the ideation becomes much easier. And I like to describe it like a bow and arrow. So normally you design and then you cross your fingers, and through intuition you hope that your arrow randomly shooting into the forest is going to reach the tree that you want. However, if you take the time to research your audience, psychographics, their deeper motivations, then you're pulling your arrow back and you're loading it with as much targeted information as you can. So by the time you release it, it's much more likely to go directly into the hearts and minds of your audience and achieve a greater success.
So do you get, when you're working with, let's say, an event organizer, would event organizer have sufficient knowledge about their audience?
Usually no. There is a big disconnect between what people think they know about their audience and the reality of what their audience actually needs and wants. And so I often work with them with a very handy tool to, it's like there's a gap between them, and there is a tool to bridge that gap and unite them in a shared common interest. Because the other thing is there's the stakeholders, the funders, the clients. So it's about actually finding out the real needs and desires and motivations, and then finding the central thing that unites all of them. And I call that the central narrative. And once you have that central narrative, you have a basis from which to design the experience, which will reach all of them equally.
But how, in case that the conference organizer does not have the right idea, right? How do you test the hypotheses about the audience, and how would you get the information if perhaps the organizer doesn't have it?
So there are a range of methods to carry out audience research, and no one is in an ideal situation. Everyone has time pressure, resource pressure, financial pressure, targets, KPIs, ROIs, eyes coming out of our eyeballs. So I understand that, and I come from an event production background, 15 years as a producer, so I completely understand all the pressures, and I think that's really helpful because I understand the situation they're in. So what I can do is guide them through a range of methods to capture audience research, and then work with them on what's realistic, what can they realistically do right here, right now, to help elevate what they're doing within the scale that they can manage. And I also believe in small wins. So I think, rather than sort of upending everything the way somebody might be working, what they need is some small tools, some small methods that they can get some small improvements. And once they've seen sign of success, then they become more confident and encouraged to think, well, next time I'd like to try another method that might need a bit more time, but I know that it will bring better results.
What you're doing, right?
It depends on, some people want to scale from A to F straight away, but most people can't, and it's not possible. And so I don't want them to feel that they can't go down this path. And I also believe in getting results and measuring results. And so I feel like once people have tried a few things, they come back to me and they're like, oh my God, it totally worked. We want more. And so I want to help hold people's hand so that they're then empowered to carry on and take the steps themselves. I mean, it sounds very abstract the way that I say it, but it's because also with what I do, a lot of people think, oh, it's very airy-fairy, it's very creative, it's all about ideation and fanciful things, but actually it's very rooted in being strategic, constructive, practical, applicable.
That's brilliant because it's science-based, right?
Yes, it's science-based, but even before that, it's practical-based, because I was a producer and then I was working with scientists. And so I like to say that I walked the walk before I talk the talk. And I think that's really important because sometimes people are just, in the world of academia as a researcher, sometimes people are mainly hands-on being a producer and don't have time to reflect on what they're doing. And I've had the fortune to be both a producer, a teacher, a trainer, and working with scientists. So I've been in a unique position to draw on all of these to then formulate insights that can be tried and tested. So it's been a journey. It's been 15 years, so it didn't happen yesterday.
Yeah, but how actually you recognize a boring event, and what do you suggest to such an organizer? If you are in the middle of a boring event, what would you say to somebody who is organizing that? How to approach such a person who is 100% sure that this is the best what he can deliver or organize? Yeah.
So I would say, from my perspective, it's also about know your clients. So if somebody doesn't feel they need me, then they don't need me. If they perceive that everything is fine and their balance sheet is balancing, then they don't need me. But if their balance sheet is getting lower and lower and attendance is falling off, then at some point they might feel, okay, we need to examine this further. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I'm happy to take them on a journey to look deeper at what is going on. Why are these numbers falling? Where is it you want the numbers to increase? What is the audience you're trying to engage? And then take them on a journey of understanding where that loss of customer base has come from. How is the current trends, the landscape, demands, needs changing? And then what have they uniquely got that they can then expand and develop further to recapture and reposition themselves and move forward. Mm-hmm. But it's a conversation. I'm very much not the sort of person that parachutes in, blows up everything they've done, says that I'm right, you need to all listen to me. It's much more that I like to listen to them, so that I have the benefit of being an outside person that can be helpful to gather together the pieces of the puzzles that I ask them about and they describe to me, and then I present a picture back to them and I say, does this resonate? Does this feel right? And together in a conversation we collaborate, and then I can start to identify the gaps and then provide the training that's directly relevant to fill those gaps and fulfill the needs and targets that they are looking for.
Who would be your typical clients, if there is a typical client?
To be honest, it can be anyone, because for me, it doesn't matter the event, product or service, because what I'm doing is bringing in a mindset, an approach, a way of thinking that's then backed up with methods and a process. And you can apply it to somebody selling a wonderful apple, someone selling technology with the microphones, someone building venues, architects. And I know that it works because I've been teaching for 10 years and training. And so I've seen that it works and it can be applied. So yeah. So no typical client, actually. Actually, no.
I'm pretty sure that there's going to be people watching this and saying, can I actually apply this to my event or to my company or to my product, That's why I'm asking, because sometimes certain solutions are more applicable to certain populations or certain projects.
So this is a great question, and it really feeds into how another thing I like to describe experience design. as an approach and a way of thinking. And once you click into that, every design discipline, you can apply it across the board. And when I've been teaching experience design at the University of the Arts in London, I've had people who have been working in the government who have come to work, who have come to study the courses. I've had architects, interior designers, I've had product designers, brand managers, communications managers. I mean, also artists, curators. I mean, anyone and everyone. In the beginning, we had UX designers because people often think it's UX. And I explain it's actually a bit more than that. UX comes in afterwards. And then they all go away really delighted because they can all apply it to exactly their field of work. And that's the thing, because of being a producer, I'm really passionate that everything is applicable and it can cope with the realities of the pressures of all of our jobs
I
as
mean,
well.
you haven't infected. I've been infected by the passion. I can feel it. Like you're really. You're doing something that you can see makes a difference, and this is beautiful to see because we work in an industry that is so driven by passion and trust, and basically this kind of additional tools can help us be a better industry.
And I think the key thing here as well is I'm trying to empower others with the methods and tools that they can then go on to shape and use in their own way, so they become their own experience designers. It's a big enough world for everybody to manifest it in their own unique way, and that's what makes the field so interesting, so diverse, and that's how innovation comes, from multiple perspectives, multiple ways of working, and it becomes this virtuous, enriching cycle that continues as this loop. And so I'm just happy to play a part in seeding this. And the great thing, I mean, the thing that I love about teaching for the last 10 years is I've seen the cohorts go on to all their different parts of the world and seen them go up the ladder and the influence they've then had in their departments, in their countries, in their cities. I mean, they've all gone on to amazing things. I'm in touch with many of them. I follow them, and then when I get to travel, I get to meet them all in their countries as well. So so empowering people to do it themselves is very important to me as well.
Well, we are coming close to the end of this talk, but of course Pigalle will come to Slovenia soon. She's our guest at Conventa Cross Hour conference, which will take place at the end of August. So we are looking forward for this bigger discussion with you in Ljubljana,
and perhaps some applications already. That would be interesting to get. Already some taste of what you're talking about. I would feel very excited about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But usually we finish with actually short questions to you. So Jan, what is your first question?
I'll try and give you short answers. As you can see, I love to talk.
But it's very easy. Sea or the mountains?
The sea in summer and the mountains in winter. If I can cheat. I had to think about that because I love both.
Dog or cat?
I'm allergic to both.
Okay, cool.
But I love cats, but they make me very ill. But I absolutely love them. So
One
cats.
more from Jan.
Do you prefer night or day?
I'm very philosophical about the meaning of night and day. That's a hard question for me. Because the realm of sleep and lucid dreaming, I'm very passionate. I've done a lot of studies and research and work around as well as a realm of consciousness. So I see things as different realms of consciousness, and being asleep in Tibetan Buddhism is considered being more awake than our awake state. So I actually see a benefit to both sides. So I'll be non-binary with that as well. It's my
And Pigalle, once again, that people will remember our discussion. 3 words are about experience design.
Experience,
Okay.
internal world for transformation.
Remember that. Thanks
You.
for watching us and stay tuned to Ljubljana Talks.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a
Welcome.
pleasure.